Hello friends, Jennifer Pearson, Thistle Gypsy here, with another deck. First impressions. This is not an oracle deck. It is not a tarot. It is the famous Native American tribes playing cards by the Heritage Playing Card Company, which is actually a UK company. Oh, it doesn't show it there. I got this on Amazon. I came across these initially. Here's the info. When looking for cards for my parents, who have no interest in tarot or oracle cards, but who do play cards a lot. Solitaire. My mother is, she plays it on the computer. She plays it on the table after practically every meal. So I was getting her not Native American cards. I was getting her the flower cards. And then I thought, well, if I'm getting some special cards for my mother, why not get some special cards for my father? Which is, so I thought I would get him. He's where the Native American looks come from. Again, there's just not much in the way of genetic evidence, but his looks, despite our strong Swedish background, his looks are native. So I was looking for some for him, and I got him the, is it Edward Curtis? There's some gorgeous, fascinating cards, and I got those for my dad to play solitaire with. And but I also had these on my list, and I will probably at some point get those Edward Curtis. At some point in my life I had books that had his photography in them. That was, I don't know if it was, I think it must have been about tribes or Native American history or something, which I just wasn't that, I'm not very much of a history person. But I found these and I thought that these were really curious also. And since I'm kind of buying decks and I'm starting with, for the most part, the cheaper ones, I thought I would get these. So that's the backing. And so these actually do have a pretty wide variety. There's some, I think there is some duplication of tribes, but I think it's interesting that it's created by a UK company. It's not a U.S. company. So through cards, I'm beginning to learn the interest other countries or cultures' interest in the Native Americans. So here we are. So there are two jokers. These are really cool cards. So my intention is kind of like with the National Geographic decks that I got, that are, like I've got over here, that I can see extraordinary earth and magnificent mankind. And I will create my own meanings. So I won't use them for a long time because I'll be having to do a little research to, not with the extraordinary earth, but with the magnificent mankind. And with these, I will be researching the various tribes and I have no idea. Where does it say? Somewhere it says who the author or who the artist is. But I have no idea. It doesn't say that they're historical artwork. So I don't know how authentic this is to the actual dress of that tribe. I assume that there was an intention to be as historically accurate as possible, considering that this is called Heritage Playing Card Company. Where does it say? John Denaro. It's here. It says these 54 playing cards, each wonderfully illustrated by artist John Denaro. So yeah, I have not. This is I looked through them once, and am now showing them to you. So I have not looked up that artist, but I probably will. And I will look up each of the native tribes. Some of them I'm familiar with. Some of them I've been on their reservations, just passing through or for a powwow or something. But I will have to look up to kind of differentiate the cards and just think in terms of what is particularly characteristic about that that Indian nation, that Native American nation. So we'll see. We'll see what comes of it. So this is a doll, as it says. So each card gives kind of the century, and most of them are somewhere in the 19th century and some are early 20th century. In other words, their depictions are based on that particular time period. So this is a doll, and it's giving Alaska here. But some of them are kind of, I don't know, I might, since there's writing on here already, I might be a little bit more specific about the location, because a lot of them are like plateau, and it's like Nez Perce Plateau. I think of them as Eastern Washington. I don't think of that as a plateau. So it's like, so whatever. But beautiful. I love that that one of the jokers is moccasins, empty moccasins. I don't know what I'll make of that, but I love it. And the rest of them are usually one person. I think there's one that has a woman and a child. There are, I don't think there are any depictions of people who are particularly elderly, but there are depictions of younger people who you could see as youth, like maybe in their mid-teens, and younger children to some extent, but most of them, are most of them men? I'm sure that most of them are men. Everybody loves it, a great headdress, right? And the men had the great headdresses. And I expect that there was, in terms of the whole notion of being depicted in, whether it's through art or photography in particular, was something that freaked not only Native Americans, but I think a lot of other people out too. So, it was kind of a daring thing to pose for your portrait. And it could be that, there was a desire to protect or keep the women from doing that. I have no idea, but that wouldn't surprise me. So, there we go. And one of the reasons I wonder if it's, how authentic it is some of them are just kind of too similar. Like everybody had an eagle feather headdress. Well, some of them didn't. So there are some beautiful women in here in their attire. I'll be curious to see, and they have various ceremonial items or tools. So there we go. At least it's focusing. My webcam likes them. But for the purpose of kind of just doing a run through. I'm going to do it kind of quick. I'm not going to show all the close-ups with all the details, but they are pretty interesting. And so much could be made of various things, whether they're sitting. Obviously this woman is a weaver. What they're carrying, the color of their clothes, their age. So I'll have to go through here and do some sorting, and I'll make a recording somewhere, and I mean not a video type recording, but in writing I will make a list of all of the tribes represented, and how many women and how many men and what ages. This is interesting to me because that headdress clearly looks like a alligator, and yet it's the Hopis, and the Hopis weren't in that kind of an area, so maybe it's intended to be something else. I don't know. Maybe it's supposed to be the muzzle of a wolf or something. Or maybe they've been traveling. Maybe somebody traveled and came across those alligators and decided to create a scary mask to go with it. I don't know. This would make an interesting kind of masculine energy deck, because, you know, I do get kind of different vibes from the different, you know, some of them are very, and some of them are just sort of there. And so on some of these, it has something to do with the ceremony. Matzah ceremony. I know nothing about that. But, you know, I suppose I could find something about it on the good old internet that would add some meaning to that card. So I don't even know if he was drawing from images and then, you know, added color to it, like drawing from photographs and then adding color to it, or what. It's interesting to me that most of the men, I think all of the men, are merely posing, and yet the women are doing something. So some of the women are posing, but it seems to me that the majority of the women are doing something. It's like you have to justify being in the photograph. So you're not in that photograph for pure ego purposes. You're in the photograph because you're doing something interesting. And of course, we can't forget that the photographers, if these were taken from photographs, the photographers were probably men. And so they may have been fascinated with the male role, or again, may have been prevented from having very much access to women for various reasons. And there is, I don't think this happens very often, but there is a publisher moment right there. But I don't know that it's on any of the other cards. Is it only that one? I think it is. Well, I see there's one on a joker. So not too bad. Not too obnoxious. I think these are plenty evocative, plenty interesting to potentially come up with some meanings for them. Whether or not they'll jive with what would normally be associated with the playing card, I don't know, and I don't know that I'll even try that. I will probably focus on the image of the person, and then after that I'll look at the card associations and see if there's any reinforcement maybe. And there she is with her child, because she is the only one where there's two people. So there you go. In relatively short order, again, the famous Native American tribes playing cards. I don't know what's famous about them, but there we go. I think what I'm going to do right now is I will look up that artist, and in the information box below the video, if I find anything of interest, I will put it in the information box. So look there if you're curious. Alright everybody, until my next probably unboxing. There was a tarot tag that was going around that I thought I might try, come to think of it, so maybe I'll do that. But otherwise there's one more deck that's floating my way. There will be two maybe in the coming week. One is, this is chatty. If you're not interested in hearing chatty deck stuff, you can stop now. The chatty deck stuff. I seem to be on this thing where it's like I have a wish list that's, not public. And then, like when my birthday rolls around, like it did in June, I will move stuff from that list, or here's another list, a couple of lists, and I will put them in what I call my birthday list, so that people close to me can look and see what I want, and then, purchase them for me. Well, I have this thing this year where I put them on that list, and they go out of print. They go out of print. Now, the people aren't buying them for me anyway. There has been a different tack, like to my birthday, had a more practical, which I'm perfectly happy with because I really appreciate that, bent to the gift giving. But then when I went to either get the deck for myself or to move it back onto the list, onto the general list that I usually look at, they're out of print. They're gone. They're not. It happened with the Victorian Fairy Tarot, and I was really interested in that deck, and so I went hunting it in this one other out of the way store in the middle of, I don't know if it was in North Carolina or Virginia or something, and contacted them, and they said, oh, well, we just sold the last one. It's, all right, so maybe I'm not meant to have the Victorian Fairy Tarot. But I really was quite charmed by the images and the flower associations. And then I just kind of remembered the other day, I thought, oh yeah, I probably have some ducks still on my birthday list, and I might as well move them onto this other list. And so I went in there, and the flowers of love, which, weren't super high on my list, but I was curious about them, and they were cheap, and it's like, why not get them? And had them on my birthday thing because they were cheap and they had to do with flowers, and my mother's a flower plant person. And so I thought she would find that interesting or amusing. And what happens? I go on there and there's none available. And I'm like, what? Again? So I managed to find them. Again, I think it was in I think it's a fairly new company. It's some kind of imports company. It only had a few decks on it, and that was one of them, and I think they had 2 left. Vienna Imports, and they were so lovely. I wish they had more decks. Their shipping was appropriate. It was like less than $4. It's like, all right, you're doing this instead of, choking us on the shipping. You're actually, have shipping integrity in terms of an appropriate shipping rate. So, I ordered them. I got them. So they'll be coming. And then another thing, because I was it this? I don't know why they showed up, but was I trying to find this again? I did a search. This was already in my wish list, so I don't think I was searching for this. But I did some kind of search, and this other I was looking for these things that supposedly Los Scarabeo had done at some point, and again, they were things that I found by looking for playing cards, not for oracle cards or tarot cards, but for playing cards. But they were Native American themed. And again, when I went through my my list, I found that it was missing or out of print, which I wasn't too upset about that. These kinds of things, they do require some work on my part. And this other set, I wasn't even sure what the cards looked like. I was never sure when I did an image search if I was seeing what was appropriate for those cards. So I was looking for those, and then I found what was presented to me during that search was someone, which I get the impression it's some kind of maybe used store or something. In other words, that these cards just came to them and they don't know what they really are. That they were in a cardboard box and you open it up and there's 2 decks. So it might be, in fact, I don't know. I'm curious to get them because I'm curious to see if there is a publisher type card in there that will tell me if, in fact, it could be that it's one of those Los Scarabeo, I think, or maybe it was U.S. Game Systems. I can't remember. Anyway, and so she had this, and it's 2 decks in one, and they're Native American themed again. So I'm on a Native American kick between my Quester Tarot and this and that other deck that I did. I found it on there and I thought, well, this is really interesting and unusual. I wasn't sure that I liked it, but since it was interesting and unusual, I decided to make a purchase. So that will probably become both of those decks probably toward the end of the coming week. So there you go. my coming deck videos and my decks going out of print frustrations. All right. Take care, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.